Be sacrificing.
So we say Hatch is the master brewer, kind of crazy, off the wall. Where do we put Job on the brewers list?
I mean, Job still colors inside the lines. I mean, he Hatch is off on doing his own thing.
He's doodling outside of the
Right,
lines
yeah.
in the coloring book.
Right. Job definitely plays brews, but they aren't completely off the wall. But they are generally odd mixtures of cards or odd synergies he's trying to manipulate.
As far as Ryan Delang, he is playing a rather normal legacy deck. It hasn't done very well recently, unfortunately. I actually kind of liked when about 2 years ago when Maverick was the thing that a lot of people were doing and, winning with, because I think Maverick's kind of a cool deck. I like Neither Relic Warriors card. I like fair decks and legacy, for better or worse. It's just kind of what I'm into. And I liked when Maverick was doing really well. It's been kind of pushed out for a couple of reasons, one of which is Trine Nemesis.
Yeah, I think overall Death and Taxes is just a better disruptive creature deck. It's a little bit faster to the ground. There's a lot of matches of Legacy where you don't have time to do things like mess around with Knight of the Reliquary, and then Trine Nemesis is a disaster for a deck like Maverick.
Yeah, as it always is, unfortunately, as we're going to see Job cast a Manipulate Fate. We got a reader, and we are going to bring it up. Because this card, one of the things it does, the last text is that it draws a card. But you search your library for 3 cards, remove them from the game, then shuffle your library. Guess what he's going to remove from the game?
Some Griffins.
Hey, you're catching on. Missed Hollow Griffin, a card that we'll bring up, because it can be cast while it's in exile for 2 blue, 3/3 flyer. So it's a combo deck.
And right now, if I'm in Ryan's seat, I could actually imagine this is some weird value deck because you have Noble Hierarch. It's like, oh, okay, he's going to cast a flyer. He's going to have Assaulted, exactly like what happened in the match with Hatch, where before you realize what's happening, it is too late.
Sure.
And there's a lot of value to playing decks like that in Legacy.
I like when every time someone casts a ridiculous card, we check out both players' faces. Job has a happy grin on his face.
Yeah.
Ryan was just like, well, I don't know what's going on, but it's probably going to be pretty cool. So I can't wait to see what happens. Manipulate Fate does cantrip as well. So after you remove the cards, then you get to draw a card as well. Job drew a Tropical Island. Now he's going to cast a Deathrite Shaman, a very fair, normal Legacy card, and pass the turn back. This is a Swords to Plowshares. I believe the From the Vaults edition. And that's going to get exiled, so Job is going to gain a life and then pass the turn back.
A little curious there for Ryan not to just use the plow right away, but Deathrite Shaman, the more threatening card, and takes care of it with the plow.
Ryan draws a copy of Grove the Burn Ballistics. It looks like he's got a pretty fancy deck over there. A couple of foils going on. And there is a Grove.
Someone purchases some from the vaults, it looks like.
And now this, okay, that's an alternate art. I
That's
want
a
to say
Living
it's
Wish.
Living Wish, yeah. They're going to test our knowledge today. So we're going to take a look at, all right, what can Ryan get from the board? We've got a Bajuka Bog, a Wasteland, a Karakas, a Stoneforge Mystic, a Kataki War's Wage, a Thalia Guardian of Thraben, an Ethersworn Canonist, a Scavenging Ooze, a Kosali Pride Mage. He does get a Stoneforge Mystic, as you saw. A Spirit of Labyrinth. That's it. There's some other bullets here, but he can't get them with Living Wish.
Yeah.
You a promo guy or an original guy on art?
Original guy.
Original guy. What if the promo wasn't foil?
Still an original guy.
All right. Food chain. Text box coming. Remove a creature you control from the game. Add X mana of any color to your mana pool, where X is the removed creature's converted mana cost +1. Now again, key here, any color to your mana pool. This mana may only be used, to cast creature spells.
And keep in mind that next turn, that Job can even go add 3 mana, sack my Hierarch to Food Chain for 2 more mana, and then start going off with the Griffins. He doesn't even need a 4th land next turn.
Yep. That's any one color. Here's a Stoneforge Mystic. So if he draws a land, he just gets to go off, right?
Well, he doesn't necessarily have a large output. He does get to get his flyers into play, and that's really good. But
well, he gets infinite mana.
For creatures. So he still needs
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
He still needs something, if he has a Tidesprout Tyrant or an Emrakul, then that's basically going off.
Okay.
But otherwise, he's just going to get 3/3 flyers, which is not shabby, but it's not game over
So
necessarily.
the payoffs are Tidesprout Tyrant and Emrakul.
Yeah, and he has a Tyrant in his hand. So.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Job draws. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
We are doing it. Here's a forest. This is 4 mana. He's going to cast a Mist Hollow Griffin from exile. And he's going to use this to Food Chain Goblin. So he's going to be +1 mana now, correct? He gets to add any mana of one color, and he's going to be +1 mana.
He has infinite mana for creatures right now.
Okay.
And now with Tidesprout Tyrant, he has infinite spells. and that means infinite boomerangs, which is presumably game over. Here we go. I'm gonna win.
So your whole board back in your grip, and yeah.
Oh, Stoneforge for Batterskull, sweet. Yeah. Pick them all up.
Yeah. So let's explain this combo one more time.
Right.
Okay.
So you sacrifice the Griffin to Food Chain. It exiles as part of Food Chain's resolution.
Correct.
So you have now 5 mana of any color you can spend on a creature.
Any one color.
Of any one color.
Okay.
So now you can recast your Griffin plus 1 mana each time.
Because you're gonna name blue with the first one, because you can keep recasting the Griffins.
Right. So you essentially have infinite blue mana and then infinite mana after you build up enough of a supply where you can start sacking the Griffin, sacrificing it for other colors of mana, and have enough blue left over. So
got it.
It's infinite mana for creatures, and then you can simply cast a Tidesprout Tyrant. Again, you have infinite spells because you're actually casting the Griffins as you go.
Yep.
Or you can just play an Emrakul as well, and that's an extra turn plus infinite spells, plus you're hitting with Emrakul, et cetera, et cetera.
So when Tidesprout Tyrant comes in, when it comes in, whenever you play a spell, which is one of the Griffins, you just bounce one of their permanents. As we saw there, he bounced all of Ryan's permanents, and then he has a board with a Tidesprout Tyrant, a bunch of Griffins, and winning from there is academic.
Yeah, it's not actually a kill that turn, but he bounces all of Ryan's permanents back to his hand and has 17 points of flyers or something in play, which is usually good enough to win the game.
Well, I'd hope so.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Well, boy, this has been a fun day of coverage so far.
Yeah, this has been a riot.
We're going to take a look at coverage. I'm going to take a look at Ryan Delang's sideboard, since now he knows what he's up against, which is his crazy Food Chain deck. His sideboard, again, is all one-ofs. I'm looking at 15 one-ofs, which happens most of the time when I'm looking at Charbelter sideboards with the Togs in them. But this go-around, I've got a Bajuka Bog, a Wasteland, a Caracas, a Stoneforge Mystic, a Kataki War's Wage, Thalia Garden of Thraben, Ethersworn Cannon, Scavenging Ooze, Quasali Pride Mage, a Gaddock Teague, and a Spirit Labyrinth, all cards that can be searched for with Living Wish. You follow that up with a Runed Halo, a Story Circle, a Manriku Gusari, and a Sword of Light and Shadow. And Patrick, I know this is going to come as a real shockaroo to you. None of these cards in here for the old Food Chain deck, really.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good action going on here, quite honestly. Yeah. And that's actually the cool thing that's going on with Job's deck is a lot of combo decks, they're either using the graveyard or using their hand as a really valuable resource. Once Job is doing his thing, it's, you can blow up Food Chain before it gets going, but he doesn't need his other zones to be functional. So things like Bajuka Bob that people have in their sideboard for a lot of different versions of combo decks provide no disruption against Job.
Well, you get to have the fun. You've got Job's sideboard in front of you.
4 Submerge, 4 Obstinate Baloth, 2 Phyrexian Revoker, 2 Gravedigger's Cage, 2 Null Rods, and a Misdirection. I think the 4 copies of Submerge are probably pretty easy to bring in here. Although, Ryan didn't really show that much in the way of Forest, and the Maverick deck occasionally is functioning off of, for example, Ryan can easily have Plains and Grove of the Burden Willows and cast everything.
Sure.
So this is not necessarily the ideal matchup for Submerge, but I would be hard-pressed to imagine this stays in the sideboard. Maybe he wants Gravedigger's Cage for, sorry, not Gravedigger's Cage, but Phyrexian Revoker for equipment. But I assume Job is not really that concerned about Stoneforge Mystic for Batterskull. There are some games that he can win manual style. If he didn't have Tidesprout Tyrant in that game, for example, he can just cast his Griffins infinitely and try to just beat down and block. Yeah. But I think that's probably a tertiary game plan.
Well, we're going to watch these players shuffle up for game number 2. Round 4 here in Los Angeles. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan starts the Games Open Series here in Los Angeles at SCG Live. Hashtag SCGLA for your tweets all weekend long. I hope you guys are having as much fun as Patrick and I are. We're trying to be professional here, but enjoying ourselves.
I brought this up several times during the broadcast yesterday. Los Angeles has a very cool legacy
Yes,
scene.
you called that. And I mean, obviously you live around the area and you get to play with some of these guys, but every time we come here, it is just a blast. Not only that, I mean, like, you get to see awesome decks, and there are also just some very skilled players who live in the area too.
Yeah, a lot of players where if they, players who fly out to, one Legacy Grand Prix a year, players who would never fly out to a Grand Prix for Standard or Modern or Sealed.
Yeah.
But they play a lot of Legacy. They'll fly out, and it's very realistic for them to put up, a top 16, top 32 finish in the Grand Prix with no buys. I mean, you have that class of player here, and it makes the rounds very competitive.
I think of, a player who obviously we're familiar with, Jacob Corey. I think he's going to be going to the Somerset, I think the Grand Prix New Jersey later this year. It's going to be Legacy.
Yeah, in November, I believe.
Yeah, and he's just really, that's probably the only Grand Prix he'll fly to.
He flew to Indianapolis a few years ago and lost playing for top 8. Yeah. Top 16 that Grand Prix with no buy, or top 16 that Grand Prix, I believe, with no buys. Yeah. So, and that's just one case. There's a lot of players in that skill range who could become very familiar with their one deck. And part of that is just that Orange County and Los Angeles have a really vibrant Legacy scene.
Yeah, Joe Lissette is, someone you think of a lot like that, but he's really built a name for himself in the Open Series and things like that now.
Yeah, the mixture of the Open Series and his streaming, I think, makes him one of the more high-profile legacy specialists.
The Oarsman.
Yeah, the Oarsman.
I've never seen someone who loves counterbalance more.
It's true. He loves it.
He does. I could watch Joe play that. I like that's a deck I would never play ever, but I could watch him play it forever.
Yeah, he is. I would never touch it myself, but watching Joe pilot it is a real treat. I got to play against Joe once, and that was one of the more memorable matches I've ever had in the Open Series.
He knows all the tricks with that deck. Maybe we'll see him later today.
It's a 3-game match where he eventually killed me with Baneslayer Angel in Game 3, so he did know all the angles. He had my goose.
Did he claw you down with a Mystic Gate, too? Was that the week when he had one of those?
He played a Baneslayer Angel, and after he had top counterbalance locked me for most of the game, and I just was like, come on, man. Couldn't even hold it in.
I'm waiting for the day where Joe has a floodplain in his deck, and it's correct.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yep.
well, I can't afford to take one, so.
Right.
Well, okay.
The metagame's too fast.
Yeah.
I can't take the one. There's Hizetsu's second rights fooling around, so, or whatever,
Job, gotta take a mulligan here as Ryan looks like he's happy with his 7 here. Second right's been getting a little play in Modern. I don't know if you knew that.
No, that excites me, though. I played that card quite a bit when it was legal in Standard to reasonable online success.
You guys want some hashtag MTG stories. There hasn't been one about Hidetsu's second right yet.
Oh,
Not one.
I have one where I won a match online on a mulligan to 3 that involved Hidetsu's second right.
Ooh.
There's not much of a story there. My opponent should have blocked and did it, and then got killed. But
then they got 10-balled?
Yeah, then they got the 10 ball.
Yeah. Job going to take a look at 6 cards here momentarily. The Las Vegas native. Open Series top 8 winner in Las Vegas and Legacy portion. Many moons ago with Rug Delver, also invitational top 8 competitor when we were in Los Angeles back end of 2012. So success is not unfamiliar for him.
Occasional PT player.
Indeed.
Joe's a tough out in the Vegas PTQs.
We've got ourselves a Windswept Heath. Delang going to go down to 19. Looking for a card like Kosali Pride Mage, really. Seems like one of his best cards in the matchup. Might be casting a Green Sun Zenith here. Yeah, he's going to go get the Dryad Arbor. But don't forget to shuffle that in.
Green Sun Zenith with the awkward shuffle twice text.
Yes. Very, very bad against Kosi's Trickster.
Yes. Shuffle. All right, put your deck down. All right, shuffle again.
19 for Job via Verdant Catacombs. We'll see if he's got an accelerant here in Deathrite Shaman or Noble Hierarch. There is Dryad Arbor. The powerful land. That combination maybe means that Green Sun Zenith is too good in Modern. Just that combination by itself.
I think the flexibility is a big deal. I actually find Dryad Arbor to be a pretty annoying design. Has Joe realized he can't get an island there with his Verdant Catacombs?
Well, he can try.
He can try. I find the Dryad Arbor to actually be a pretty annoying and unpalatable design. I think I'd rather live in a world where Zenith was legal and Arbor was banned if it's between those two, but I think those cards in conjunction are probably a little too pushy.
I cannot imagine banning Dryad Arbor. I can't wrap my head around it. Like, even if it makes some sense, which I think your argument does, I still can't imagine that world.
Would it be the most nonsensical ban on the Modern ban list?
I don't want
Does it make the top 5? Okay.
I'm not quite sure.
Brainstorm from Joe.
2 and 3 cards coming. Let's see, Wall. I think that's the last one's Wall of Blossoms.
And you may wonder, why did Job go ahead and brainstorm on his first man phase? He has no mana left over. And the answer is he's digging for Submerge, which he found.
He's decided this is very important, but he is not going to cast it. I thought he may.
Yeah, I assume that brainstorm. That's what that brainstorm implied.
There's Windswept Heath. Oh, this could get nice. It's a Spirited Labyrinth. Hello.
Well, good thing Job cast that brainstorm. Although with Submerge, Job does have a way to get out and still cast his cantrips.
Now, this is the kind of legacy boogeyman that people are trying. They're waiting to see this thing actually do its thing, as we'll bring it up for you guys. This is supposed to be just this great tool for Maverick and Death and Taxes, and it hasn't really hit home yet. Now, I know you were in Seattle. Death and Taxes lost in the finals. Do you have Spirit and Labyrinth there?
I believe there was one in the sideboard. Usually the Death and Taxes style decks have several copies of Enlightened Tutor to get bullets, and because Spirit and Labyrinth is enchantment, it, you get an enlightened tutor for it, and so it showed up a little bit there.
Job, with the Windswept Teeth on the stack, we're going to go submerging. I had a feeling this might happen.
This is a really tight play from Job here as the Submerge resolves first, putting the Spirit Labyrinth on top of Ryan's deck. Then he has to resolve the fetch land, shuffling it in and dealing with it permanently.
And of course, he can choose not to search for a land.
He still has to shuffle.
Okay. And you see this. You search your library, then you search your library for a forest or plains card and put it in your library and put it into play, then shuffle your library.
It's all part of the resolution of the text box. So you can pick up you can fail to find a land out of your deck, but you are required to shuffle.
Okay. Well, then you better find that land.
Yeah.
And so Taiga is what he's going to grab.
Yeah, because everything after pay 1 life : everything that comes after pay 1 life : is mandatory gameplay stuff. There's a rule where you can fail to find out of non-public zones, but that still means you have to shuffle your deck.
Got it. So, Spirit Labyrinth, you're out of here.
For now.
For now. Croc is coming in. Both players have one. New legendary rule. They're fine.
Yep.
They can stay there.
Each player may control one.
One of those Crocuses is nicer than the other, though.
Yeah, Job's is.
Yeah, you would say, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you would say the one on the right.
Because that came out of a Legends booster pack, so that's way sweeter.
Give me the one on the left all day. With that gigantic foil stamp on it.
No, thank you.
There you go.
Just the classics for me.
Yep, the director, obviously. Yes, unbiased. Giving each Caracas to us. Thank goodness. There's a Sword of Fire and Ice, the new school Sword of Fire and Ice from Modern Masters, as Job will take a draw here. He's behind on mana, but he's not on anything any pressure, so he's not really in much of a rush right now.
Yeah, you can see his hand's pretty flush with good action here. He's got some cantrips, he's got a Wall of Blossoms he can deploy. I suspect he's actually going to deploy it this turn to give himself a blocker against the sword plus Dryad Arbor. And you see him pick up Food Chain, double Hierarch. He's got some tools to work with.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going as crazy as he was in the first game, obviously, which was practically goldfishing and killing his opponent. I believe it was turn 3. It was actually turn 4. But, he's had to play a more honest game of Magic this go-around, which it looks like he's capable of doing. But, unsurprisingly, Brainstorm helps let you do that.
I mean, Job's deck has all sorts of normalizing tools in it. You see Wall of Blossoms here, Vendilion Click, Venser Shaper Savant. He has Charlotte's Agent. He doesn't have to play strictly a combo game. He can also play a value game for a little while before going off at his leisure.
So Wall of Blossoms is going to come in. And Joe will pass the turn back. So no fetch land to make it a perfect Brainstorm. But not a bad turn. All right, Swords Plowshares, get that thing out of here. No life being gained as Swords is power. And now we're going to equip and bash you for 3.
I'm a big fan of this play from Ryan here. He may not know exactly what Job is up to, but he knows that time is not on his side based on what happened in the first game, so he's getting aggressive here. You see, it looks like Job's hand is chock full of various Griffins.
Well, this is something that can happen with this deck, right? Now, the big question with this deck is it okay if you actually draw Griffins or do you manipulate Fate them? But it actually seems like it's okay to draw them. Look, you cast them, then you just go, and then you get your infinite mana, so it's okay. Yep. It's obviously a very underpowered card given the context of the format. Delver Secrets is a 1-mana 3/2, for example, but it works out all right.
And now Job has to contemplate if he's willing to run his Food Chain out into the face of a deck that is likely to be able to produce some enchantment removal.
I'd be a little scared to do that, excuse me. Here is a Manipulate Fate. So Griffins, get out of my deck. And Cantrip. I like the Cantrip part.
Yeah.
That's nice of them.
It's a nice little bonus.
And you can actually, because you can remove any 3 cards. Now, of course, you're always going to be going for the Griffins, but in the off chance that you've drawn a couple copies of Griffins, you can just get a garbage card out of your deck, like an additional copy of Manipulate Fate, which Job might do here.
Yeah. Not a great use of spending of mana in a format this fast, but it does come with extra flexibility in the event that you do draw it.
All right, and he's found a 3rd Griffin, so good to go. And Joe will be drawing a card in just a moment.
He is a bit under the gun here, though. You know, he's under a 5-point a turn clock right now. He's at 14, so Job does not have all day.
Yeah, I mean, Sword closes games out very quickly. And also, the fact that it's going to allow Ryan, to draw cards is a big deal. So you can find a card like Kosali Pride Mage. You see Ryan's hand right now. He has a Punishing Fire over there. Not a ton else. Got a Batter Skull, a couple mystery cards hanging out, but...
That was actually a great draw for Job here as he picked up a Tide Sprout Tyrant, meaning that if he actually does go off, he has the full lock.
All right.
He gets to bounce everything.
Yeah. Now, we know this Noble Hierarch's going to die because of Punishing Fire. You see right now, Ryan saying he also has a Green Sun Zane hanging out over there, so he's doing just fine. He's basically, you know, he needs to cut Job's mana and keep getting on in. That's what he's going to do. Punishing Fire will take care of the Noble Hierarch, as Job is obviously having difficulty hitting land drops. And heaven forbid Ryan draws a Wasteland, as in comes a Dryad Arbor for 3 with a Sword Trigger about to happen. 2 will go upstairs, and a card will come. That's a Gaddock Teeg. Now, Food Chain costs 3.
Yes.
So, Gaddock Teeg not going to do it.
And the rest of the combo is occurring through creatures,
Yeah.
so it doesn't disrupt any of the bigger stuff either.
There is a Teeg. Is there actually, you have Job's Deckless in front of you, is there anything that he can actually Gaddock Teeg?
Force of Will, a sideboarded Misdirection.
Okay.
Or main deck Misdirection as well, so not a lot.
This isn't like I'm not too surprised to see this card in Ryan's deck after sideboard because he's probably a little unfamiliar with what he's playing against. Like, yes, you saw the combo last game, but it doesn't mean that Job couldn't have like a backup combo or something that's expensive.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, your instinct is always, you know, when you're playing a deck like Punishing Maverick, I have my Either Sworn Canonist, Gaddock Teeg, Thalia slots, and I just keep them in against, you know, really dangerous combo decks. Even if it's not clear, it's providing a lot of disruption.
Speaking of Either Sworn Canonist, can this Food Chain deck beat that card?
Well, it can Venser and then go off. I mean, it's problematic.
There's a way. There's a way.
It's
Okay.
problematic for sure. Venser is kind of a catch-all
Yeah.
to get out of those kind of permanents.
In we come again. Gaddock Teeg, Dryad Arbor, Sword. That's going to make it 5. Sword Trigger is going to make it 6 and 7. Job is down to 2, and he's got nothing on the board. And the problem here with the Food Chain deck is if you just cast Food Chain, like you're taking your turn off, and then you go off the next turn, but he's not going to have enough time to do that.
Well, I think that if Ryan does not have a removal spell in hand, he is going to die because Joe has Vendilion Click. He can click Ryan, get rid of whatever, play Food Chain, sacrifice Vendilion Click for 4 mana, that gets a Griffin, and then Job's on his way.
Tricky John.
But if Ryan is getting a copy of Kasali Pride Mage right now, that complicates things significantly.
You have nailed it, my friend. Oh, he can't cast that.
Oh, there's X the
Because
cost.
there's a Gaddock Teeg in play. Yeah, he can't do that. Job missed it, and we missed it briefly too.
Yeah.
Yep. Wombo combo.
That's how you build a deck. So there is an incentive to remove the Gaddock Teeg, I suppose, if you aren't positive it's going to be good against your opponent.
Well, you can Caracas it back and then do it.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Lines within lines.
See, now that is good deck building.
Yeah. And actually, it's likely correct for him to do that in this spot. But now, Ryan's in all sorts of trouble as Job has it all set up.
And Job is going to see a hand here with, what is that last card? A Swords. He's got to get that out of here.
Yep. Assuming that Ryan misses on this draw, Job is good to go.
And the tough thing here for Ryan, again, because he doesn't know what he's playing against, this just seems like a pretty innocent or Vendilion Click, right?
Right.
Just like, I don't need to sword this. But in reality, he needed to.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have a Grove of the Burn Wolves among his lands. Now he'll get to draw a card. Let's see what he found. He drew it really quickly. Didn't catch it. But either way, Job has to go for it here. So he has to cast his Food Chain and go nutso.
Yeah, I mean, Job's hand is force. He has to just go for it.
Yeah. That's a Food Chain. He's going to, Crocus, yep, Crocus will
And
get
that's
it
the
done.
step.
Okay.
Yep.
Was curious to see if Ryan would see it, and he did, and so that's going to do it. Ryan Delang is going to win game number 2 and we'll move on to the third and final one, so he's okay.
So there is some disruption that Ryan can present here. It appears as though creature removal, enchantment removal, all these things are live against Job.
Yeah. And if you're curious what happened there, Job cast a Food Chain with Vendilion Click in play. And so what happens is that Ryan, in response to Food Chain, Caracases the Vendilion Click so that Job has no fuel to sacrifice to the Food Chain to go get those Miss Hologriffins back, and then see what we saw in the first game, which is looping those, creating infinite mana, playing a Tide Spout Tyrant, and bouncing all of the things. So if that Caracas isn't there, we're good.
Yeah.
And if that Gaddock Teeg wasn't there, he could have Green Sun Zenith for a Kasali Pride Mage, and he was good. So he's actually in pretty good shape that game.
Yeah. And so, you know, Job needs to kind of get out in front in terms of mana because Ryan can actually present a clock and sit back on his heels quite a bit.
Yeah. So we're going to be starting game number 3 here momentarily for you guys. Again, Cedric Hills, Patrick Sullivan, Star Stadium's Open Series here in Los Angeles. We've already got our standard Open champion, Jason with Esper.
Well deserved.
Made it look pretty easy this weekend, actually.
Yeah.
And Esper is boy, I got a feeling, man, when we are in Charlotte next weekend, going to be a whole bunch of that.
Yeah, Jason Yanisevic's win, I think, really sets the table for Charlotte because, you know, when we have these open series, where often, you know, we have our grinders, we have our players in the room who we're expecting to do well. There is a lot of people who are coming out of the event where this is the big tournament for them. The Invitational is going to be flush with stiff competition, and the vibe that I'm getting based on everything that I read from all of Standard's top minds, especially on StarCityGames.com premium side, is that Esper is the deck they're going to be playing with. So I definitely anticipate it being a huge presence at the Invitational.
Yeah, I can't imagine that people that we're just gonna be flush with that. And you know, as we walk into the Invitational, we've got obviously BBD with the lead with 170 Open Series points. You've got William Huey Jensen with 155. You can see the second part of the leaderboard here, you know, Rill, Wilson, Davis, all those guys. But the front part here with BBD at 170, Jensen with 155, Nelson with 150. Got to give congrats to Brad this weekend, top 8 in Grand Prix Cincinnati with
Awesome.
Esper.
Great, yeah.
Surprise, surprise. Van Meter, 148. Those guys are really going to be duking it out to see who wins the Season 1 invite to the Players' Championship. And then, of course, whoever wins the invitation will also get an invite to the Players' Championship. So,
And I consider Brad's deck selection to be really telling because he's not really a player with a specific disposition in my mind.
Yep.
Beat down, control, mid-range, combo, whatever. He just plays whatever he thinks is good.
Yep.
And Brad also does a lot of work playing Standard. So if he's convinced that Esper is the deck to play, then that's as good of advice as you're going to find from anyone on the planet in my mind.
it's really hard for me not to say the best Standard player in the world. And this has nothing to do with me like being friends with Brad and working Brad or anything. His results in Standard are absurd.
I also think he's just regularly producing the best decks.
Yeah, they are just absurd. He always feels like he's just one step ahead of the Standard metagame at all times. It's crazy.
And a lot of it's just hard work. I mean,
think of the Invitational he won with that Naya deck. It's just like, this is the 1 week where I can do this, and it's appropriate, and it was appropriate, and that deck has never been heard of again.
Right, it was at the spot where Mono Black had kind of hit the ceiling, where Assembled Legion was really powerful.
Yeah.
And Brad was right. And the next week he wasn't playing it. You know, most players, when they win a tournament with a deck, even if they don't think it's good, they can't help but run it back. And Brad has no such biases, just lets it go if he doesn't think it's the right deck to play anymore.
Another Standard top 8 for Nelson Cincinnati. So mega congrats to Brad. We'll see what happens there, but we're going to turn our attention to this one here.
Big congrats. My understanding is that it now sets the table for Brad to be qualified for the next 3 Pro Tours.
Yeah, this was really important.
This was really significant, so congratulations.
So it looks like Job is on the mulligan plan. I'm not sure how well this deck mulligans. It seems kind of erratic.
Oh, for sure. But it is essentially a 2-card combo or 1.5 card combo or whatever, so it's not as susceptible as a deck like Storm, but he does have a lot of weird pieces. So
Job gives a thumbs up, plays an island, passes it back over to Delang. He'll draw a card. A little mana acceleration, perhaps? Nope, just a Mother of Runes.
Mother of Runes is a card that Job isn't terribly concerned about. It's definitely less threatening than the mana accelerants.
It's kind of ironic that Job is a creature deck that does not care very much about Mother of Runes.
Very rare. Although the same thing is true of Alurin, and Job's deck is sort of a derivative of that sort of strategy.
Might be time to go brainstorming. Feels like it might be time to go brainstorming. It is. So a 1, Tropical Island. 2 is a Noble Hierarch. 3 is a Misty Rainforest.
And Noble Hierarch is a great draw for Job here, as it really sets the stage for him to cast it this turn and have a lot of resources to work with. Also has Submerge at the ready.
Yeah. So the big question here is what landed Mother of Runes? I think it was a Savannah. It may have been a Plains-Zone, but I'm pretty sure it's a Savannah, and it was. And the thing is I think he has to Submerge now because of Mother Runes, obviously. You get the one window.
Yeah, his 2 options are Submerge Mother Runes right now or shuffle away the Submerges to the Brainstorm, because it's not going to be good after this.
Oh, there's a Trop. This is a Noble Hierarch, I believe.
You can see he's got Food Chain, and I believe he has
in his hand.
Yeah.
He's doing really good. Yeah, and he's going to Submerge right now. So get that weak stuff out of here. That's going to go on top. That'll be your draw step, Ryan. So he draws Mother Runes again. Ryan's got some options here. He's got to Grove the Burn Willows, also has a Punishing Fire. He can cut off some of Job's mana. He can try to get Mother of Runes established again.
Yeah, if I'm Ryan here, it's hard for me to say no to just killing the Hierarch. I understand you want to reestablish your board a little bit here, but there's nothing that Job has done thus far to indicate that Mother of Runes is a reasonable disruptive option.
There's a Grove. I think he's with you, man. I think he's with you.
There's also the possibility that he's willing to say Living Wish for something that can interact with Food Chain if he's assuming that Job can't really work around something like that.
Yeah, Living Wish targets that are really good for Ryan in this situation that are good against Food Chain, excuse me. Thalia making everything cost one more. Ethersworn Canonist, one spell per turn, really blows up what Job's doing. Pride Mage as well.
Right, Pride Mage to me is the good one because Thalia doesn't even work once Job is going because he's going off exclusively
with
through
creatures. Sure.
Yeah.
Looks like it's just going to be Mom. Look, it feels like to me Ryan's a little unsure how he wants to go through the next couple of stages of this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty. He can also try to set the stage with Living Wish, and he has whatever number of Living Wish targets that are relevant too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of permutations to this turn.
So he's going to get Mother Runes out there and pass the turn back. Job's going to draw a card. It's a Misty Rainforest. He's going to play Misty, sacrifice it immediately, go down to 19. Now, I think in this sequence, you cast the Griffin first, correct? And then you cast the Food Chain after it?
Right, because you don't care about it getting hit with Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah.
That's another nice element of this deck.
Yeah, it's ironic. You care about it going to the graveyard.
Right.
So if he Punishing Fires it twice, you're like, no, my Griffin.
Yeah, if it got hit with if you got hit with Terror, you would say this is kind of annoying. But instead, the most commonly played removal spell in the format does very little to break this up.
Yeah.
I guess arguably Bolts is more played, but that's kind of in a different place.
Yeah, sure. All right, Ryan does play a Forest, has an active Mother of Runes. Now it's time to see what we're going to do.
And there's still the question of if Job even has anything terribly good to do with all the mana when he goes off.
Yeah, this might seem like just like this rather innocent draw. It's like I brainstormed and he cast a Griffin and who cares? And it's like, oh, well, you're about to care. You know, when someone plays a Noble Hierarch or Brainstorm like a Miss Hollow Griffin, you're not terribly scared. But
right.
That Ethersworn Canonist will make things very scary.
Does a lot of work assuming that, you know, there's actually another turn.
Yeah, and if Mother Rune's defending it,
yeah,
it's basically impossible to get off the board. See what Job draws.
Say Manipulate Fate.
Oh, give me that red zone.
Yeah.
Griffin coming on in. Does he have enough mana to cast Manipulate Fate and Food Chain in the same turn? He's going to Manipulate Fate right now.
Well, he might if he draws a mana source off of this Manipulate Fate.
Because then what you can do is just get all the Griffins in play, and then that's too much to catch up from.
Yeah, you can just go beatdowns.
Yeah. Now, again, you might be wondering, why doesn't he just cast Food Chain and then make infinite mana and then cast Manipulate Fate in the Griffins? Because Food Chain can only be spent on creatures.
Right.
The mana generated from that. That's the big key. So the big question here is, does Job have the third land to cast Food Chain, to sacrifice his Griffin, to make a bunch of mana and get all the Griffins back in play?
And then again, even Canonist Mother of Runes may not be enough.
Draw a card. It's an island. We are doing it.
Sweet. All right.
This is a food. I think it's a Food Chain. Yep, there it is. Ryan's saying, am I dead again? Not exactly.
I don't know if you're dead, but you're in trouble.
Yeah, I've got 4 3/3s. That's my sweet turn, and now it's your turn.
Yeah. And I like the idea of Job winning kind of on the backup plan here. Did he go infinite? No, but 4 3/3 flyers isn't shabby.
Yeah, this was obviously good enough.
Lingering Souls is plenty powerful, and so why wouldn't this be powerful?
I suppose this is kind of like Lingering Souls.
It's, you know, a little more work. It's a little more setup, but
as opposed to just drawing a Lingering Souls. But hey,
hey,
whatever it takes.
Style points.
That's true.
That's worth a lot.
All right, Ryan, how do you work yourself out of this one? Because he's obviously in a world of trouble. He's got an attack coming across for 12 next turn. You saw the attack last turn was for 4 because of the Griffin being a 3/3 and exalted from the Hierarch.
Yeah, and It's worth noting that, random plows and things like that don't really help.
Yeah, which is that's so weird
Yeah.
to even consider saying.
We're even at a spot now where lightning bolt doesn't really do anything, or removal in that space, because Job can simply sack to food chain and then recast.
Yeah.
So Ryan's going to try to have to win this game on the ground somehow, or through batter skull or something, and it's going to be really challenging.
Yeah, Batterskull's just slow to the table. Gonna
Yeah.
sacrifice this this windswept teeth. Go get a land here.
This knocks Ryan down to 15, which means that, assuming he has no answer to any of the Griffins this turn, it means all 4 of the Griffins are lethal the following turn.
Yeah. And hey, those Griffins have makeshift vigilance.
Yeah. Just get it right back.
Yeah, you attack with all of them, then you sack them all to food chain, then you get them right back.
On the house.
Yeah, that is a sweet interaction.
I mean, it may only be one of the Griffins gets it, because if Ryan plays the Candace this turn, then
Sure.
then Job needs to modify his play a little bit. But
So Batterskull's going to go to the grip. You saw Ryan sacrifice the windswept teeth, goes down to 15, gets Savannah. Job shuffles and cuts his deck. We'll see if Ryan has a follow-up play. Looks like he may just go with the Canonist, and he does. And now he just has to pass the turn back. So Job is going to untap those lands and all that other stuff. He'll take a draw. As you do see Ethersworn Canonist, and Job will draw a card. It's a Forest, and he has Manipulate Fate in his hand. Manipulate Fate will be the only card he could cast this turn. And he is going to cast it.
he's got nothing else to do. The other alternative he could do is to simply attack and leave a Griffin back on defense after the fact by going through food chain, but I think Job would rather draw a card here.
Yeah, he's going to get some rubbish out of his deck, 3 lands.
We're seeing the backup plan. It's food chain but not infinite, and then Manipulate Fate for some deck thinning. Job's giving
Don't
us
forget about that cantrip.
Job's giving us a platter full of plan Bs this game.
Yes. All right, take a draw. Now, obviously, again, because this one Candace is in play, no spells. Unless it's an artifact. Griffins, let's do this. In for 12.
Griffins assemble.
Yep. Ah, he sees it. The vigilance play. He has seen the play.
Well,
Oh,
this doesn't-
yeah, one Canonist, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that one's going to come. Oh,
Right, yeah.
Wow.
The Manipulate Fate, he gets to choose
Yeah.
between-
Job, I think, was wanting to make the play I wanted to make, but as you mentioned, the Canonist makes that play not possible. I don't know if it's going to come back to hurt him or not.
Thank goodness that he decided to sack and try to recast first instead of sacking all 4,
Yeah.
because that would have been a
Yikes.
disaster. It's unclear. Ryan's still in a ton of trouble here.
Smith Hollow is in the exile pile right now.
He needs to find 3 flying blockers or gain life or some mixture of the 2.
He has found none of the above. Jonathan Job with a blue-green food chain will defeat Ryan Delang 2-1. Punishing Maverick picks up its first loss. But Job moves on to 3-0-1 with another sweet deck.
Yeah, some sweet brewing so far, and it's great to see them win too. If we had a deep run where decks like Food Chain and Mono Blue, whatever Patch was up to, I think that we'd have a great tournament. I still, I love Legacy and the meta game and trying to figure out all the different decks, but there is something nice when the stuff on the fringes or the weirdos come out to play for a little while. Because